Right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the annual meeting of the Shared Regulatory Services Joint Committee on Wednesday, 25th of June, 2025. We're at the Council Chambers in the Vale of Glamorgan Council Civic Offices. My name is Mark Thomas, and I'm the Democratic Services Officer supporting the meeting today with my colleague Matt Swindle, who will be technical support. Before we start the meeting properly, I'll read out some housekeeping rules. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording archived for future viewing. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please raise their hand in the chamber? When invited to address the meeting by the chair, please could all participants ensure that their microphone is on to ensure that they can be seen and heard when actively participating. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally for the sake of the recording. So please could I welcome all committee members, officers, and to anyone watching the live meeting broadcast. We now go on to the first agenda item, the appointment of the chair. As per the process and procedure for SRS, this moves from year to year to the relevant members of each authority. So this year it will be the turn of the Vale of Glamorgan Council, and Councillor Sivinianam will be the chair for this year. Afraid Councillor Sivinianam is not here at the moment. There's a bit of a delay, so I'm going to go on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 2, which is the appointment of the vice chair for the year. This goes to Bridgend Council and Councillor Howell Williams, who will be the vice chair for the year. I'm going to hand over now to the rest of today's business to the vice chair, who will act as chair until Councillor Sivinianam is able to arrive. So I'll hand over to you, Councillor Williams. So when you're ready, we'll move on with the rest of the business for today.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for explaining the process for us. And I'm sure if Councillor Sivinianam will be with us shortly, then she can resume her duty as the chair. But,
that's correct.
My name is Howell Williams, Councillor Howell Williams, represent Bridgend County Borough, and I will be your chair for today's session. So we follow the agenda. Welcome, everyone, I suppose is the first thing, because I'm relatively new in this role as SRS representative for Bridgend. I've been here for 12 months. This obviously you've turned 10 years now this year, so it's well set in, and it's a very successful arrangement between 3 county boroughs. So yes, welcome everyone to the first live meeting, I believe, since the COVID hit us, the COVID pandemic. So thank you for your attendance. I'm going to move now to item 3 on the agenda, and that's apologies for absence.
Chair, we've got, Acting Chair, we've got one apology from Councillor Lewis from Bridgend Council, fellow councillor, and also possibly from Councillor Sivinianam, but we're just waiting if she's just simply delayed at the moment, okay?
Okay, so we'll move to item 4 on the agenda then, and that's to receive the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of March 2025. They've been attached to the pack. Can I have a move that we adopt them as an accurate record of the meeting? Yes, thank you. And second? Thank you. We move to 5, and that is to receive declarations of interest and the nature of such interest and the Council's Code of Conduct. Are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. So we now move to a report of the Head of Finance, Section 151 Officer. Who's going to take this report?
Thank you.
Lovely. Gemma.
This report presents the draft statement of accounts as at 31st of March 2025, and those are subject to audit by Audit Wales. We'll be handing the accounts to Audit Wales subject to approval by committee today on the 30th of June. So we have undertaken the majority of our QA. There's one table I want to do a little bit more work on if committee are happy to agree that, and that's just on table 5 of the report of the accounts themselves. And that table attempts to kind of set out the difference between the management accounts and the information that's presented to you as part of the expenditure and funding analysis, and that's partly because we report the grossed up position, so not net of local authority accounts as part of the management accounts. So if committee are happy to agree, I'd like to do just a little bit more work prior to handing the accounts over to Audit Wales, but I will of course circulate that amended table. In terms of the accounts themselves, as members be aware, these include the statutory accounting adjustments that local authorities are subject to. And these are primarily for the SRS relating to the pension adjustments for the pension liability, but also relating to the leave accrual. So for any outstanding leave for SRS staff as at 31st of March, and some limited capital adjustments relating to depreciation. And the SRS did purchase a vehicle in year as well. And some of those statutory accounting adjustments, it's considered shouldn't hit the council taxpayer, and that's why we adjust them out of the financial accounts. So you'll see in your statements, and probably the balance sheet is the best place to see this, which is on page 16 of the accounts, that you have at the bottom of your balance sheet usable reserves and unusable reserves. So the unusable reserves are not cash backed, and they purely exist to absorb those statutory adjustments. So they're equal and opposite to the provision for accumulated absences, the capital account, and also the pensions liability on the accounts. In terms of the main changes in the SRS accounts in year, probably again best summarised on the balance sheet. So you'll see there's been a change in the cash position. So last year cash was owed to the host authority, and this year cash is owed to the SRS from the host authority. Also, there's been a reduction in usable reserves by 30,000. There's been a slight change in the accumulated absence provision, but that's broadly impacted by when Easter falls, we seem to see it in our accounting. As I say, we'll be handing the accounts to the auditor on the 30th of June, along with the accompanying working papers. I'm not entirely clear on the audit timelines at the moment, because what we've seen in previous years is Audit Wales have tended to prioritise the main local authority accounts. And that's why we saw last year quite a late audit timeline. But we will be, making sure that Audit Wales have got all those papers so they can progress the audit of these accounts as quickly as possible, and hopefully in line with the main local authority accounts timeline, which would see them audited by the end of October. So those are the main points I was going to draw out on the statement of accounts, but happy to take any questions or clarifications.
Thank you, Gemma, for presenting the report. Are there any questions? I'm happy to receive that table at further. Okay, cheers. Well, we've just been joined by the chair, so I will now hand over to. You're going to have to say your surname for me.
Sivignano, but you can call me Rupert.
Thank you.
I do apologise.
Yeah.
There was a police cordon and everything, so I had to go all the way around. So I do apologise. Right. So agenda item 7 now.
Yeah, we've just taken 6, so we're moving on to some 7.
No, not quite yet. Sorry, Vice Chair, we've not quite finished with agenda item 6. I don't know if
Sorry, I thought there was. Okay.
Is there still recommendations to be approved on that?
Yeah, well, possibly. I don't think we formally read out the recommendations, Mark, but we asked if there are any questions, and the Vice Chair confirmed that members were happy to receive that amended table after today's date.
Okay, and just double check, does it need to be anything added in terms of being subject to the changes you've got to make?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the changes don't change the substance of the accounts. It's the narrative report that would be amended. So, but as long as members are happy to agree that they're happy to accept those changes to the narrative report.
I think that's what we agree.
Right, sorry about that. Thank you. I just want to double check.
Thank you. Sorry.
It's good that you're on the ball, though, for us. So we are now at agenda item 7.
No, that's agenda item 6. Concluded 6.
Yeah, so agenda item 7. So is that Helen? That's over to you, Helen. The annual report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confuse things a little, because Gemma has just done finance in that first agenda item, could we stick with finance and ask Gemma to cover that towards the tail end of the report from 2.92, and then I will come back and take members through the remainder of the
Yeah,
report.
perfect. Is that okay with you, Gemma? Great, go for it.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much. So in terms of the provisional outturn position for the shared regulatory service, we have an overspend of 229,000, which is broadly in line with the trajectory of the monitoring that we've been reporting throughout the year. So that consists of £167,000 overspend within authority-specific services and £62,000 overspend within core services. And within the report, you'll see that that's split over the partner authorities. So we have an underspend against Bridgend, and that's largely because of the underspend against authority specific, an overspend of 239,000 against Cardiff and 27,000 against Vale of Glamorgan. In terms of the core services position, as I say, there's a £62,000 overspend, and there haven't been any specific use of reserves to offset the unbudgeted expenditure, but as is our usual practice, the overall overspend will be absorbed pending the audit and agreement around funding that as we progress through the year. The main contributing factor to the overspend in year against core services is additional staffing costs, and that's due to higher utilisation of core services than was expected. And just to draw out some of those key headlines, so we have an underspend against animal services, which is due to a staffing vacancy. Environmental services, there was an overspend of 20,000, and that's due to lots of little variances adding up. Food services have an underspend of 11,000, and as we progress through the year, we had been forecasting an overspend there. Housing services year-end position is £100,000 overspend, and that again is driven by additional staffing to meet service demand, but also there's been reduced income. And health and safety and communicable disease service sector, small overspend of 3,000, pollution services and trading standards reporting and spends of 14,000 and 44,000 respectively. In terms of the authority's specific position, just quickly run through some of those headlines. So the underspend of 51,000 for Bridgend relates to an underspend of 40,000 against the Bridgend licensing team, and that's due to staffing vacancies. But there's also an underspend against stray dog kennelling and vets. And that's been consistent. We've seen that over a number of years. In terms of Cardiff, the 202,000 overspend relates primarily to an overspend against the licensing section. And again, we've seen that in previous years as well. HMO service areas are also reporting a 30,000 overspend. And for the Vale, this is primarily due to increases of services for licensing and burial, and they're each reporting a £10,000 overspend. There's a small overspend against the pest control service, and kennelling and vet sector have a £6,000 underspend. So those are the main points that I was going to draw out on the report. And I think typically what we do is we note that position pending the outcome of the audit, and then we seek to resolve the overspend position following that. Okay. Happy to take any questions or queries on the report.
Thanks, Gemma. Are there any questions? No? Gosh, this might be a quicker meeting than we thought. So, Helen, shall I hand back to you?
Lovely, thank you, Chair. I'll start at the front of the report now. background just explains why we have the annual report each year before the 30th of June. And that is something which is laid out in the joint working agreement. So we need to give an account of performance through the year, and we need to cover the summary revenue account as well, which Gemma has just done for us. Moving to section 1.5, and this is just a reminder of the 5 strategic priorities that SRS groups its work under, and that will be very much the structure, if you like, for the remainder of the report. And I will be bringing operational managers in to share some of the achievements over the course of the year. So I will begin with a little bit on human resources. So dropping down to 2.2. And as we normally do, we start with a look at sickness absence levels for the year. And these were 8.34 days, excuse me, per full-time equivalent person. That is an increase on the previous year when that overall figure stood at 6.93 days. But you'll see in the table, figure 1, that while unfortunately there was some long-term absence in the service over 24-25, the short-term absence level has decreased, so that is really encouraging. When you look at the sickness absence in the context of earlier years as well, you can see just how good 24-25 actually was. A little bit then for members on recruitment and retention and some of the work that we've done over the course of the year. We've presented this to you before, but good to bring this together as a summary of the things that we've done through the year. One notable change, of course, is the amendment to job titles, and we look forward to the benefits we see that will bring in terms of getting our job vacancies to the right audience. People who actually want to be an environmental health officer will be searching now for environmental health officer jobs. 2.9, a summary of where we are in terms of developing our existing staff. And we have a number of members of staff at the moment who are going through master's qualifications. And nice to reflect that since we started this match funding for additional qualifications, we've actually supported 18 colleagues, and of those 18 colleagues, all but 2 are still in the service. So a really good investment in developing staff. 2.10, it wouldn't be an annual report without me speaking about the regulatory apprenticeship, and some detail there on developments over the course of the year. But cutting to the chase, we now have a regulatory apprenticeship in Wales, a level 4, which we are absolutely delighted with, and we're looking forward now to embracing and bringing apprentices into the service and developing them. The other advantage with the apprenticeship is that the levy, if you like, can be used to put existing members of staff through the qualification if they don't already have an existing qualification in regulatory services. So win-win for us. Absolutely delighted that after a 5-year journey, there is now a regulatory apprenticeship in Wales. So I'll probably stop there for a second, Chair, after human resources matters, to see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Helen. And are there any questions from members? Councillor Michael?
Not so much a question, just a comment, just to thank Helen for the report. I remember clearly when we discussed the qualifications of the staff and the trouble we had getting staff, so it's really pleasing to note how many of our staff have actually gone through a bit. It's about 5 years, I believe, since we discussed it. It does take time, but it's certainly working. I think the officer should be congratulated on the good work.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Michael. I think that would echo what a lot of us would say about that. So that is really good news. I have one question actually, Helen. You know, on the short-term sickness that has gone down, and I know you touched on it in the report, but it'd be kind of good to, I think, to talk through elected members why we think that's reduced over the years.
Yeah, no particular trends that we're picking up specifically in the last financial year, but I think the way that SRS works, that flexibility, ability to not necessarily have to come into the office or to be on site, I think that flexibility helps, and quite possibly a case of members of staff who otherwise would report as short-term sick are able to work. So I think it's probably a combination of things, but I would put a lot of it down to the flexibility in which we work.
You can move on now.
Thank you, Chair. And if I may, I'm going to pass now to Christina and to Will, so that we can take a look at that all-important performance for 24-25.
Thanks, Helen, and good morning, everybody. Yeah, so we're looking at Appendix 1 for the performance, the colourful appendix in your pack, and Will and I are doing a bit of a double act in terms of reporting on the performance elements. Mine is the first bit in that pack relating to food and trading standards performance, and it's quite an easy one to present for me at this juncture, just because we've had an absolutely fantastic end of year performance result. In that, as we've reported at 2.17, all of category A, B and C premises for food hygiene, we've hit target of 100%, which is excellent news. And only one of the new business elements for food hygiene hasn't quite hit the mark, but it was very, very close. So again, that's that's really good work on the staff behalf, and obviously lots of effort from the staff gone into achieving that programme. In terms of trading standards, likewise, you'll see we're at 100% completion, so all greens from our perspective. So, Will, I think I'm handing to you now for your element, and then it's back to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, and good morning, members. So, very briefly, as you know, I manage the pollution and licensing teams across the SRS. Pleased to note that all of the stats, or most of the stats for my area, are green. Certainly for the licensing service, which has been a testament really to the staff there, because they've had a lot of challenges this work across the 3 councils. The majority of the pollution PIs are green, with the exception of probably the most challenging PI that we have to meet, which is the 1-day response time for commercial noise and air complaints. Across the year, we fell a few percentage points short of our target of 75%, and there's some text in the document advising why that may be. But I would say, on a personal level, both teams, both licensing and pollution, have performed amazingly well this year in what have been difficult circumstances with high demand from the public. And certainly my thanks to them goes out, because I think the service they deliver is top notch. So happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions from members? And we'd echo that, the hard work that the officers are putting into this. So yeah, well done. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Councillor. So we're at 2.23 now in relation to food hygiene and food standards, and this paragraph is just to set out the unique circumstances of SRS and how we're set up, particularly in the world of food, because of our such a large footprint in that area. So the report states that we have around 20% of the food premises accounted for in Wales. So to give you a flavour, that's over 6,500 food premises on our patch, and one of the largest in the UK. The paragraph also talks about our significant increase in enforcement action that's been necessary, particularly post-COVID, and increase in incidence of pests, and of course which all impacts officers' availability to carry out other inspections when they're dealing with such matters. The very serious ones, of course, go through the court system. And again, you will see in paragraph 2.24, reflecting the increase of enforcement action at those food premises and the amount of food prosecution cases that the three legal services have dealt with. And that has resulted in 19 defendants pleading or found to be guilty of food offences, fines of £38,957 and costs of £8,943. So again, just to really highlight the amount of work that goes on in terms of preparing those legal files and, of course, where those matters go to trial. But, of course, most importantly, the revisits and the amount of work that goes into getting those businesses up to standard so that they are safe to trade, and, of course, the impact on public health in those matters. So, again, just highlighting the work there of the food team. We're at paragraph 2.25 and we talk about the broadly compliant, the former PAM. So when we talk about broadly compliant, that's really an assessment of businesses and how they are performing in terms of the regulatory framework and their compliance with the regulations. We also mentioned that we, of course, in terms of that broadly compliant, there's a table there stipulating how we've improved over time, and you'll see, we're at a really good level of compliance despite some of those prosecution cases that we have mentioned previously. Another challenge for us is the significant turnover of food businesses that we have in the area, particularly in the city. We have lots of start-up businesses that perhaps it doesn't work out for them and then they move on. And of course, we are governed by the Food Law Code of Practice that's set by the Food Standards Agency, that we must attempt to get to those businesses within 28 days of them beginning to trade. So that's quite a target for us to achieve. And of course, if they have poor levels of compliance when we get there, it's all about bringing them up to standards and any enforcement action that is necessary should we need to. We've briefed you previously in relation to our audit by the Food Standards Agency, which took place in February. That was a really thorough audit in terms of our policies and procedures, but again, in terms of our performance post-COVID recovery. The audit report recognises the real progress, particularly in terms of food hygiene, and feedback verbally from the auditors really talked about how much improvement has been made since the past audit. In terms of food standards, we've still got some efforts to be made. We're working on how we can be a bit more lean in terms of using food hygiene officers to do food standards, looking at allergens, that type of thing, whilst they're at the business, less burden on business and making every contact count in that way. And of course, you'll all be aware of the progress that we've made in recent years to get that programme back up and running. So we're in a good place for this financial year ahead. Chair, I'll carry on if that's okay with you, unless you'd like me to stop at this point. Okay, so the next bit for me is to talk about the vapes market, obviously very in the media at the moment. And of course, we've reported previously on the rapid expansion of the vapes market and of course, growing concern in relation to the devices. So when they were first brought out, it was really about smoking cessation and helping people to quit. But of course, the marketing of vapes and the really attractive packaging, the different flavours, really have been really appealing in terms of its popularity, and of course, had difficulties then in terms of that attractiveness to people underage as well. So the UK has seen a huge influx of illegal vapes. We regularly undertake operations and respond to intelligence and complaints from members of the public. And of course, we look at the compliance in terms of those products with the regulation and specifically in relation to the amount of puffs that the tanks are allowed to have. A snapshot of the scale of the illegal vapes problem has been reported to you previously, but we have attempted test purchases in 26 premises found to be selling illegal vapes. and 3,793 vapes or illegal vapes were seized by officers with an estimated retail value of £38,000. Also, for you to be aware, during the last year, the Tobacco and Vapes Bill has made good progress towards becoming law, having been developed as part of our Four Nations approach to tackling smoking. We've detailed a little bit more of that for you in the report. And from 1st of June, separate legislation, the Environmental Protection Single-Use Vapes Wales regulation has come into force. That has had lots of publicity, and we've been using the opportunity to advise businesses in the first instance in terms of compliance. But we are receiving complaints and information from the public, and we'll respond accordingly now in terms of ensuring we get compliance in that space. But that definitely is a busy area and of concern to us. And the last little bit from me, you'll be pleased to know, is in relation to special procedures. We've talked to you at length in terms of special procedures previously, and we've done presentations, and that's new licensing rules specifically in relation to acupuncture, body piercing, electrolysis and tattooing. We're playing a really active part in this. I'm one of the conduits with Welsh Government in terms of consistency across Wales for special procedures. It is, of course, a licensing regime, but the element of inspection by health and safety officers is all about improving hygiene safety standards, ensuring the infection prevention control that goes on at those premises are up to standards, and people are obviously safe when using those services. Detailed within the report and information provided from Will's team talks about the number of applications we've received to date, and that was at year end. There is a transition period involved, and we're already planning how we communicate to that element of the trade to ensure everybody's applied in time and we're all up and running in terms of that licensing regime. So apologies, that was quite long from my perspective, but happy to take any questions.
Councillor Mackie?
Again, more a comment than a question. I mean, the question could be just how do you manage to cope with all of that? There's so many new things coming on board now that and you know, extending the services that we already have as well. And I mean, I think it's incredible that you all manage to do the work you do. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Mackie. We are, you know, we're really lucky to have such trained and professional staff who are very up to date and you know, willing to do this work on our behalf. But also we all know that we're incredibly lean in terms of the amount of staff that we have. So, you know, it's all down to the dedication of the staff who were very hard working in terms of the level of support that they are getting in terms of delivering these services. But I will pass those comments back and thank you.
Yeah, please do. And also, when all of this came about, the special procedures and the vapes, we weren't getting any extra funding for it, were we? So it is down to the staff and down to training and the support that you guys are giving your staff. I suppose one of the questions for me is that when around the food hygiene, around the special procedures, all of these things, especially with new businesses coming through, do you find that they really are starting from scratch with no idea what they have to do, especially I suppose under the special procedures and the vapes, and is that the hard slog and where the time is in terms of explaining to people?
So I think COVID saw a real entrepreneurial spirit of people in that people chose to perhaps take different career paths, and there was a lot more set up from home of these type of activities. And sometimes people go into it very knowledgeable, they've done their research, whereas others go into it a little blind and do require that extra support. So I think there's two roles for us. There's the supporting the local economy, of course, and making sure that our areas are vibrant and that there's a safe, fair trading environment. But of course, the compliance and the legal compliance, and of course, impact on public health to our residents and our visitors is also important. So we wear two hats on that perspective. But of course, through our inspection and intervention programmes, that is ensuring that the services that are provided within the community are meeting safe and legal requirements. But yes, Councillor, definitely, people are much more brave in these environments and are willing to do those startup businesses that perhaps pre-COVID we wouldn't necessarily have seen.
Any other members have any questions? No? Helen, is it back to you?
I think it's over to me now, Chair.
Sorry, apologies.
Very briefly, so throughout the year we have kept members appraised of the great work now being done by SRS officers in all 3 local authorities in respect of empty homes. So 2.39 of the report lays out in detail the achievements, but in particular I'd like to draw attention to a few items. In Bridgend, the empty property working group we chair has gone from strength to strength, I think, and the team have helped tap into the various myriad actually funding streams that are available for empty homes, and they've had great success in targeting the top 20 problem vacants in Bridgend County Borough Council, and that's involved a number of techniques, including compulsory purchase orders. So a real success story there. In Cardiff, the team achieved the highest ever numbers of empty properties brought back into beneficial use. I would say we've had great buy-in from stakeholders within the council, and particularly Councillor Thorne, who chairs the working group. Staff, again, use a variety of methods to achieve their aims, including works in default, which means we can then, if there's a debt on the property, enforce a sale, as well as signposting to grants that are available to owners. And then finally in the Vale, as the report identifies, through some funding, we've got a newly established empty homes officer in the SRS who's worked closely with the regeneration team to target problem vacant homes, and again are beginning to make great inroads, I think, into the highest priority targets in the Vale, which have been empty for over 10 years, for instance, as well as responding reactively to the normal remit of complaints that we get in relation to empty homes. So that was very briefly a quick run through empty homes. I'll move swiftly on to building safety before I pause. Again, members will have been updated throughout the year on this topic by myself. And the report outlines some of the issues that have arisen as the work progresses. I think the key takeaways, however, for members of this committee remain that the Welsh Government has repeated its commitment to introduce a new building safety bill in the current Senedd term, with a tentative implementation date of April 2026. Which would mean commencement of probably some of the elements in the Act in summer 2027. So it's still very much a priority of Welsh Government. The local authority will be the building safety regulator for high-rise buildings, so that has been confirmed. And I have to say it will have significant resource implications for both building control and environmental health teams in the SRS. So as a service, we're currently working with the various stakeholder groups that Welsh Government have put together and established as part of the consultation process. And also working with groups such as the Joint Inspection Team, which is mentioned in the report. So we'll continue to report back to Joint Committee as this piece of work moves forward. And I'm sure that as we get nearer an implementation date, it will be something that all of the councils will take a keen interest in. So that was me. Happy to take any questions that members may have.
Do any members have any questions? Yes.
If I just thank Will and the team for the work that they are doing around empty homes. That's been a phenomenal success, really, of the SRS. It's clear that there are tools out there that we can use to assist in this problem. There have been problems with empty homes. They attract antisocial behaviour, and they've been a blight on the scene of many areas. And the work that you're doing there is to be commended, and ensure that, you know, when you get a dedicated team together, that then you can make a difference. It makes a real difference to people. So thank you for that for that work.
Thank you, Councillor. Certainly, I appreciate that statement, and I'll certainly pass that on to the members of the team involved. And I should say as well, the cooperation from all of the teams that form part of the working group in Bridgend. They've all had a place to pay in that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Will. So if there are no more questions on that, we'll... Oh, of course, Jace, go for it.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just similarly going to update members around one of the core strategic priorities, which is protecting the environment and looking at sort of animal welfare and air quality issues. So looking towards animal welfare, sort of one of the biggest issues the team currently faces and continues to face really is issues around illegal dog breeding and having to respond to intelligence and information about illegal dog activities occurring across the region. And this is seen across all areas of the SRS region where unlicensed dog breeding activities is occurring. Officers will respond to that information and where we have enough intelligence, potentially get warrants to enter properties, because a lot of these happen at residential properties. So the officers will go with veterinary qualified vets to attend these properties, and where conditions are such, appalling conditions are met, the dogs are suffering, under that veterinary advice, those dogs potentially will be seized. So paragraphs 2.47 to 2.49 really just give a summary of two cases that concluded last year, really, where unfortunately dogs were seized from properties, and then we've taken successful prosecutions against those persons for illegal dog breeding, but also then the sort of offences under the Animal Welfare Act, really. So again, as part of this process, where we seize these animals, we have to apply to the courts to get a Section 20 to have those dogs awarded to us. That does take a long process. It does cost the service money to do that, because we have to take care of those dogs. We are responsible for them for when they are seized. But thankfully for those two cases, we were awarded the Section 20 orders, and we're able to rehome those dogs once those the court decided in our favour on those. And illegal dog breeding, obviously there's a lot of money involved in it. It is a key strategic priority for trading standards, is one of the areas we get a lot of intelligence on, and we do have to act upon that intelligence, really. Moving on to 2.50, again, sort of recognising the dedication, the work that the team does, and we updated members on this previously, where we've been awarded RSPCA awards for the services that we provide around the stray dog provisions, our animal-related licensing, and our kennelling facilities that we provide for stray dog services. So really pleasing and rewarding for the efforts of the officers and the team there, really getting a platinum award, a gold award, and 2 gold awards on those. And that platinum award for the stray dog service really recognises that we've been having a gold award there for a number of years, and was the first time a platinum award was awarded to any service in Wales, really. So really recognising the efforts of the team there, really. Just moving on to paragraphs 2.53 to 2.61, then looking at a really important area of work for the services, and that is around the air quality work that we do. So SRS are responsible for the statutory reporting for air quality management for the 3 authorities, and each year we provide an annual progress report which ensures that the 3 authorities comply with their statutory duties under Part 4 of the Environment Act, really. In Bridgend, the 2024 report demonstrated that in most areas of Bridgend, compliance for the nitrogen dioxide air quality standard was achieved. We do have an issue around the Park Street Air Quality Management Area, which is ongoing. Last year, we had the Air Quality Action Plan approved for Park Street and are working towards achieving compliance there. And you can see in paragraph 2.54 there that the levels recorded in 2023, as reported in 2024, did see a decrease of 12 and 17% at the locations on Park Street, but we are still in exceedance of the objective there. So work continues on that. We're doing ongoing monitoring in that area. Moving to Cardiff, and again, a lot more monitoring undertaken in Cardiff, given the size that it is the capital city. But, you know, quite pleasing to see that of the 135 monitoring locations that we did monitor in Cardiff, they all ensured that compliance of the objective was achieved, and quite encouraging in the air quality management areas in Cardiff, which there are 4. Again, locations in those areas are still all compliant, and we are seeing a downward trend. And the reporting for this year that we will report later on in the year, really in Cardiff, we're seeing actual levels of nitrogen dioxide at levels lower than we did when we had lockdowns in the pandemic. So it's really encouraging to see that and the benefits that brings to residents of the city. And just updating on paragraph 2.58, there really ongoing work with Welsh Government and Cardiff Council in delivering the improvements on Castle Street, following a legal direction that Cardiff Council did receive a number of years ago, really. So finally progressing to a permanent scheme being introduced, and hopefully starting construction of that next year on that. And then just updating then on the Vale of Glamorgan, on the 2024 API, again in the Vale of Glamorgan, all locations achieved compliance with the NO2 objective, really. But that's not to say that we're going to have any complacency. Obviously, potentially Welsh Government, under the Environment, Air Quality and Soundscapes Act, potentially will be bringing in new stringent targets in a number of years. So we will have to keep an eye on that, and those potentially would take into account the World Health Organization values. So we continue to monitor and we continue to identify areas where we can improve air quality for the residents in the regions, really. And I believe that's my section done, Chair. So I'm happy to take questions on any animal welfare and air quality or any other environmental issues as needed.
Councillor Mackie?
Just again to say thank you for all the work again that's gone on in this area as well. They're all excellent, aren't they? But I was just wondering, with the dogs, is there any sign of any reduction in illegal breeding? I know people are still making an awful lot of money from it, but are we getting anywhere with you know the actions that we take to try and reduce it?
It's intelligent led, really. We keep getting more and more reports on it. The difficulty we have to verify sort of complaints on that and get enough evidence to get warrants. And the courts have to agree those warrants for us to take action on those, really. But no, unfortunately not, even though that, you know, it is well advertised that if you are breeding dogs, you do need a license. You know, if you're selling dogs, you need a license potentially now as well under new animal licensing regulations. But no, unfortunately, it continues to cause us numerous issues, and we can only do what we can do with the limited resources we have available to the service.
Yeah, I fully understand that. Yeah, and it's whether, you know, we need more, maybe, I don't know if it is publicity or what to make people aware that they shouldn't be buying dogs from these areas. Yeah, if we can stop that, isn't it? How we do that, I don't know, yeah. And again, thank you on the air quality work. Excellent. I mean, Cardiff, I can say, living in the city centre, it is definitely made a difference. I got no black particles now on my windowsills. And it's, excellent work being done there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Mackie. And congratulations about the Platinum Award, although it's a real shame that, you know, we're having to do the work, that we're getting a Platinum Award for you know, looking after these poor dogs and prosecuting these illegal breeders, which is appalling. On the air quality, can I just ask you a quick question? So in the Vale of Glamorgan, R53.
Yeah.
So would you think is that sort of highish, or not?
What the number of
Yeah, the number that we're
locations?
monitoring, yeah.
I think with the Vale it's a little bit different because we've sort of got these, small, we're not a large combination like Cardiff, so we've got the smaller towns. So to get sort of a feeling of what's happening in those smaller towns, we do have to place a number of different monitors rather than just having one in each of the towns, really. So I think it's, we can't monitor every single street. We can't give air quality, in every single location, really. So that gives us a broad general understanding of what is happening, and it allows us to look at trends and any issues that we can see longer term, really. So yeah, I think it's enough. We would like to do more, but obviously it is limited to what we can do, really.
Councillor Drake?
You've obviously covered this already, but I wanted to go back to 2.51 about the hard work that our animal wardens and health officers have done. And I think they need congratulating for the awards they received, because they must see some very distressing cases and well done to them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Drake. That was well said.
Yes, thank you. I'll take that and let the team aware of that. And they do see some appalling conditions, and yeah.
Move off this one now. I just want to say briefly, I suppose, that thank the whole team. This report demonstrates the good work that that officers, that officers are doing. And I suppose when it comes to priorities, people's priorities, we get, as councillors, we get complaints about holes in the road, the grass is too long. But for me, the priority is making sure that the food we eat is safe and the air we breathe is safe. And that has to be the priority, isn't it? About keeping people safe. So just thank you all for the work that you do, and it's truly amazing, and it's truly, we just don't thank you enough. That the recognition isn't there; it needs to be recognised. So I just want to put that on record. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you, Councillor. I think that does echo what everyone would say here, given that the circumstances under which we're also working and the resources. And I know that Councillor Michael wanted to come in.
Yeah, the work that SRS does, we know about, and councillors know about. Not all councillors. Some are interested, some aren't. And this year, in Lord Mayor of Cardiff, Adrian Robson has chosen the Rescue Hotel, the Dogs Home, as his charity. And there's a couple of events that we've got lined up that I think, if SRS have got the resources available, would be really good for you to turn up at those events and actually tell people about the work that we do as well, in connection with the Dogs Home and all the Dogs Homes in the area. So I'll let you know the dates, and if you can make it out, brilliant. So I think it's about time we actually started trumpeting the good work that officers do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a brilliant idea. I think we can chase Councillor Michael for the details. Pam.
Can I just say one thing? It's so pleasing when you go into restaurants these days and they ask if you've got any allergies, because I've got a severe allergy. Okay, not every restaurant does it, but I don't want an anaphylactic shock like I've had before. Thank you very much.
I hope you can hear the complete praise that we want to give you all and your teams. So to the next.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just conclude this section on protecting the environment. And as you say, touch on minimum energy efficiency standards. You'll be familiar with this area of work. We are working hard to improve the situation in the private rented sector by making sure that landlords, letting agents are not letting out non-compliant properties, i.e. those which have got an EPC rating of F and G. Through the course of this work, over 2 complete years, plus some prep in the previous year, we've made good progress, and that has been through contacting, guiding, advising. We came to Joint Committee back in September of last year to ask for approval for a new annex to our compliance and enforcement policy, and that was specifically about MEES enforcement, because unfortunately we've got to the stage where The landlords and letting agents who have been happy to engage have done lots of good work to make those improvements. And we'll come on to the headline figures in a second. But this hard to reach group, we are now unfortunately having to use some enforcement activity. So there's a little summary in 2.66 for members to say that 62 compliance notices have been sent, and also some penalty charge notices, which is the next stage up. We're working through the enforcement pathways. It's not something which has been done to a great extent, certainly not in Wales. But I think it's fair to say that as a result of us being in this territory now, the figures that we report each quarter won't be quite as high in terms of improvement as they have been. But we are now getting to the remainder that need to make those improvements. So cutting to those headlines, this is the cumulative value of this work over the last couple of years. Across the three authority region, we believe it's the equivalent of a reduction of 456 tonnes in the amount of CO2 produced at the improved properties, and a reduction of just over 483,000 kilowatt hours in the energy needed to heat those properties. So win-win from both the climate change and the cost of living perspectives. Not sure if there are any questions there, Chair, or I can move on to the next priority area. Yep, so moving on to safeguarding the vulnerable, and just to touch on some areas of work that members will be familiar with, the first of which is our underage sales enforcement, using young volunteers to assist with this, and testing to see if retailers sell young people alcohol, vapes or fireworks, and we had a 12% failure rate this year, and the appropriate enforcement steps are being taken there. Moving to 2.70, over the course of the year, officers have been investigating a number of rogue trader and doorstep crime cases, and again, this is something that members will be familiar with. The absolute devastation that these people cause to our residents, and I thought it would be nice to take a little bit of time to shine a light on some of these cases, because it really illustrates the work that is being done and the as I say, the devastation that these people are causing to residents. So over the course of the year, all three partner council legal services teams have prosecuted rogue builder or doorstep crime cases. So that was one in Bridgend, two in Cardiff and one in the Vale. And the combined outcome of those prosecutions is custodial sentences of 11 years and 9 months for the perpetrators. And in one case, a 10-year criminal behaviour order as well. So really significant outcome. And because we've got that spread across the work across the three council areas, in 2.72, I've given a summary of each of those, or an example of each of those cases. So the first one, rogue builder based in Bridgend, County Borough. This case concluded in court and attracted quite a lot of media attention. A builder who presented himself as being a reputable trader, competent businessman, clearly he wasn't, and the financial and emotional harm that his activities caused played out in court very, very powerfully. So he finally pleaded guilty to 11 counts of fraud, 1 count of fraudulent trading and 1 count of unfair commercial practice, and was sentenced to 43 months in prison. And this is quite an elderly rogue builder, so court clearly took that very seriously. Turning the page then to the rogue builder based in Cardiff. This case was a number of years in the pipeline. As you'll see in the summary that I've provided, the defendant finally faced 13 charges under Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations and the Fraud Act. And the pattern of his behaviour, unfortunately, is very familiar: grossly overcharging for his work, exaggerating the severity of the work needing to be done at the victim's properties, advising for work to be done which was not needed in the first place, and any work that was done being done to a very poor standard. Total loss to the victims in this case was estimated at £175,000, and one of the victims was a 93-year-old lady. This particular individual, he was sentenced to 5 years and 2 months in prison, and Cardiff Legal Services were successful in getting a criminal behaviour order put in place against this individual. And I've set that out, the wording of that, in the body of the report. It is very, very broad. The defendant is prohibited from obtaining, undertaking or doing anything whatsoever designed to lead to the obtaining or undertaking of work of any nature, including building, maintenance and gardening work at the home of any individual in the UK, whether on his own, on another's behalf, or instructing others to do so. So when this individual comes out of prison at the end of his sentence, that will be in place and will restrict his ability to cause harm to residents. So really, really good outcome. And then the third case that I've touched on is the rogue trader based in the Vale of Glamorgan. And in this particular case, someone who was contracting with residents to undertake landscaping works. Unpleasant turn, as often is the case. Cost of the job spiralled in one case to more than £20,000, and then the excuses why he wasn't completing the work. So he pleaded guilty to multiple offences under the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations and received 9 months in prison. So 2.73, just to make the point that supporting of the victims in this case, particularly where they're vulnerable or elderly, is something that officers do. And it's been really pleasing to have some feedback from some of that work, and I've set that out under the bullet points there. I won't read these out, but hopefully you will have a chance to do that. The thanks from people to officers for the care and the time that they've taken to help them through such difficult times. 2.74, a little bit of an update on the Wales Illegal Money Lending Unit, and headlines here. Over the course of the year, number of investigations, 110 victims have been supported, with 105 having had their debts written off. No actual prosecution cases concluding in the financial year that is just concluded. But as I say, there are a number in the pipeline, so we look forward to seeing the outcome of those in due course. Training of frontline staff and community-based public-facing support services is really, really important, because it's through those individuals that very often we get to hear about victims of loan sharks. The victims themselves, understandably, are not keen to come forward, but the professionals that they engage with are able to share that information. So training to those different groups over the course of 24-25, 11 different organisations across local government, housing, advice and charitable sectors. So 249 colleagues trained in that way. So that concludes Safeguarding the Vulnerable, Chair, and I can stop there for any questions on that section.
Thank you, Helen. Would anybody like to ask any questions or make comments even? Councillor Mackie.
Well, we can make comments again. Again, just excellent work, isn't it? You know what I mean? And it's amazing what people will do, you know, to con people, and you can understand how, you know, they get taken in by it. and to get these people off the street into prison, the more we can advertise those messages that they are being prosecuted, and and well done to everybody, because I can understand how much work goes into doing that. An awful lot of effort will have been made by our staff to get these prosecutions over the line. So well done to everybody. Fantastic work. Yeah.
Yes, and thank you for that. I know we're going on to supporting the local economy, but I suppose, and just picking up on what Councillor Michael was saying in terms of the work that SRS do, that doesn't really, lots of people really don't know about it, in terms of, that it covers public health, it covers, animal safety, but air quality and so on. And I wonder whether it's within all three councils that we should be putting out sort of more sort of press releases, not just on the wins that we have, so like the awards or the number of prosecutions, but sort of bread and butter stuff, like, with how many businesses that we're supporting in across the three boroughs, or how air quality is being reduced every month. But I think there is something to be said, because we are small but mighty. I think it's worth sort of putting, because it doesn't take anything to put out a press release, especially if it goes across all three councils. But we should do more around our, sort of, not advertising, but promoting the good work that we do every day around the everyday public health and environmental issues that everyone thinks are important. Councillor Michael, yes, please.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, SRS is scrutinised. I can't remember I was scrutinised about anything, to be honest. It's not as frequent as it should be, in my view. And then you get asked a basic question. I really think that in Cardiff at the moment, we get in lots of invitations for councillors to go and sit down and be trained in X, Y, and Z, or listen to a presentation. I really think there's scope for us to actually say, look, we're happy to do this every 6 months, to give an update on the work we do as a service. Invite all councillors. I'm happy to be there. Norma is, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for Bridgend and the Vale. Say, this is an update for our members from all parties. This is the work we do. This is what we've done. We can update you. I think it's something you could put into the calendar without too many problems. And scrutiny, they could do that anytime they like.
There you go, just a little bit more work. Sorry, go ahead, Helen.
Thank you, Chair. So, yes, dropping to supporting the local economy, 2.77. I won't dwell too much on this. 2.78, we're talking about our primary authority scheme, which currently stands at 35 partnerships at year end. 2.79, a note on illegal tobacco. And the point of including this in this section on supporting the local economy is the fact that those that trade in illegal tobacco, and research has shown that at least 15% of all tobacco and cigarettes supplied in Wales are illegal. Those people who trade in illegal tobacco, they're really undercutting the legitimate businesses, the news agents, the corner shops, who are doing their very, very best to comply with the law, but they simply can't compete on price. So that's the reason why we've included that in this particular section. 2.80 is a summary of enforcement activity, sort of frontline activity over 24-25, and the figures there are 86,540 illegal cigarettes and 30 kilograms or 600 pouches of illegal hand-rolling tobacco were seized during SRS operations. And very often we will do these in conjunction with tobacco detection dogs. So the equivalent street value of that little lot was over £110,000. Now, we've spoken many times about the supply chains that are involved with illegal tobacco and the links with organised crime. And while the seizures in examples like that are very good in terms of disruption. They don't address that wider supply chain. Where is it all coming from? And it's very, very organised. So some years ago, SRS began an investigation into just that, what the supply chains behind illegal tobacco were locally. And this investigation became known as Operation ESC. It has been in the court process for a number of years. 11 defendants, and the case was so big that it had to be split into 2 separate trials. They all initially pleaded not guilty. Some, over the course of the relevant trial for them, changed their plea, some didn't, but all were either found guilty or ultimately pleaded guilty. And it wasn't until July of 2024 that we had the result of the sentencing for them. So I've bullet pointed that as 6 of the defendants receiving custodial sentences totaling 27 years and 4 months, and the other 5 receiving suspended sentences totaling 9 years and 2 months. And proceeds of crime hearing will follow with that. So an awful lot of hard work, but a great outcome. 2.82, something which we've advised members on over the course of the year, is the use of closure orders for problematic retail outlets. And over the course of the last financial year, one of those closure orders, which was already in place, has been extended. So that was then in place for a total of 6 months. And another 2 retail outlets were considered almost successfully closed by the Magistrates' Court for periods of 3 months each. I can stop there because we're just about to come on to the last section, Chair, if there are any questions. Okay, and the last section of the report then is maximising the use of resources, and there are just some notes here on activity on the SRS website, which is undergoing an overhaul at the moment. A note on our social media offerings. We no longer have the X or Twitter account, but we do have a new Instagram account, so we will be building up followers on that. 2.88, we've spoken on a number of occasions about handheld tablet devices, so we're hoping again that we will be able to roll that technology out, and all of this, of course, is improving access to the service and the efficiency with which officers are able to work. 2.90, under maximising use of resources, the expectation, which we've touched on already in the meeting, of the service picking up new areas of work, new areas of regulation which will fall to us. Will has spoken about the building safety agenda and some of that work we will now be involved with. Changes in the law around single-use vapes, and also the food promotion and presentation Wales regulations, which are due to come into effect next year. And they will restrict the marketing in large shops of food high in fat, salt and sugar. So just to conclude then on 2.91, consideration of something which SRS has been very involved with over the years, and that's income generation and cost recovery. And we have sustained income generation and improved it over the last year. And interestingly, over the course of the last 2 financial years, our income for our training courses has doubled what it was. And of course, that had taken a big hit over COVID when we weren't able to run face-to-face training. So that concludes the last of the strategic theme areas, Chair. And I was just going to go towards the end of the report to conclude it, but I'm happy to stop there for any questions.
yeah, carry on, Helen, and then if there
Yeah,
are
lovely.
questions at the very
Okay.
end.
So apologies, I'm conscious that this annual report is always quite a lengthy one. So I can take you then to 2.116, because obviously we've done the finance section, and we've set out there what we see is the challenges moving forward, the things that we have been speaking about over the course of this report this morning. And I think I can conclude then, Chair, by just mentioning Appendix 2, which we haven't done already, and that is the prosecutions annex. We've touched on a number of them in the course of the report, but if members have got any queries on any of those cases, then please let me know, get in touch, and I can provide the details. 31 cases concluded in the financial year. And again, they really reflect the full range of our work: food hygiene, food standards, health and safety at work, private rented sector housing, illegal tobacco and vapes, product safety, rogue builders, taxi overcharging and unlicensed taxi drivers, odour nuisance and noise nuisance, and animal health and welfare. So right across the spectrum. And it is all thanks to the legal services in the 3 partner councils that we work with for the success in those cases. And yeah, and that really concludes the annual report. Other than any questions?
Thank you, Helen, and thank you to all the team. Are there any questions from elected members? I suppose I have one question, Helen, that you talk about challenges moving forward. So are you, given that there'll be additional calls on the service with additional legislation, how are you feeling optimistic about sort of moving forward and how we're going to resource that? And I can see you all looking at each other, so I want the truth now, so let the public hear.
Yes, it's a case of new responsibilities coming to us, Chair, and a prioritisation process. It has to be, because we cannot stretch ourselves indefinitely, and that will be a case of sitting down with members and having those conversations about what is important. Councillor Williams earlier saying, you know, what he saw priorities as, and managing expectations a little, I guess, that we will do absolutely everything we can. We're known as a can-do service, but there's only so much we can do unless there is additional funding coming that way.
Thank you, Helen. We'll hope Welsh Government are listening, and UK Government in turn. So thank you very much, Helen. So do we have recommendations, just to if you want to run through those, Helen, and then?
Thank you, Chair. So recommendations for the annual report are: number 1, that the Joint Committee approves the report and authorises the Chief Executive, Vale of Glamorgan Council, to forward a copy of the report to the heads of paid service for the other partner councils. And 2, that the 2024-25 unaudited outturn position is noted.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Mackey's moving that. Councillor Drake seconding. Thank you both. So that's moved. So thank you very much. Sorry, I apologise. We move to agenda item 8, which is the business plan. And we were sent the appendix, weren't we? Yes. Yeah, that we were sent. Yeah. Here. So over to you, Helen. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And apologies for the lateness of getting the business plan out to you. Again, it's something that we produce each year and we bring to the AGM for members' approval. This is a very brief report which takes members through the way in which we put the business plan together each year, and the way that what we do reflects the needs and the corporate priorities of the three partner councils. And those are distilled, if you like, into those 5 strategic themes that we've just covered in the annual report. So you'll see the business plan itself under each of those strategic theme headings: improving health and well-being, safeguarding the vulnerable, protecting the local environment, supporting the local economy, and, of course, importantly, maximising the use of resources. Our work over and achievements over the course of 24-25 is set out, and then under those same headings, our intended actions for the coming year are set out. So you have a colour copy, Chair. I've got a black and white one, but hopefully members will be familiar with the layout of the plan and the information that is included in it. Lots of facts, lots of figures. Any queries on any of it, then please do let me know. So going to the recommendation recommendations for that report, Chair. They're number 1, the Joint Committee notes the content of this report and approves the SRS business plan for 2025-26, and that the head of the Shared Regulatory Service is authorised to make administrative amendments to the 25-26 business plan should the need arise.
Thank you, Helen. Can I have a mover? Councillor Michael moving, Councillor Mackie seconding. Thank you. Thanks, Helen. So we move to agenda item 9. Is it agenda item? Yes, agenda item 9. So the health and safety. So Christina, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And this is a report that we bring to you every year. We are required under Section 18 of the Health and Safety at Work Act to produce a report, an annual report and an annual service plan setting out our aims and objectives, really, and how we discharge our duties under the Health and Safety at Work Act. This report and the Appendix 1, really sets that out for you. So just to give a little bit of explanation, I've already said that the Section 18 of the Health and Safety at Work Act requires us to produce this report. It's produced in response to our requirement and designed really to inform residents and businesses how we discharge our duties. The service plan details the aims and objectives of the service and talks about the demands on the service, the risk-based work programme and the resource that we have available to deliver that service. The plan also explains the health and safety executives' expectations of local authorities, and every year we have a document sent to us which is called a LAC 67-2 document, which details the national priorities for health and safety for local authorities and the role of the health and safety executive. So along with our sort of responsive work, such as dealing with complaints, we then target our interventions based on our own intelligence and complaints that we've received, and also that LAC 67-2 document produced by the Health and Safety Executive. I don't plan to go through that plan by giving you any detail. It's there for your perusal and to take questions should you need to. And to note, Chair, there are 2 recommendations aligned with this report, and that's for this committee to approve the Health and Safety Enforcement Service Plan, but also to allow Helen, as Head of Shared Regulatory Services, to make administrative amendments should the need arise through the year. But as I said, happy to take any questions on the content of that report.
Thank you, Christina. Do any members have any specific questions on the report, which is Appendix 1? Councillor Williams, was that a... No.
No. Content of the report.
So thank you very much for that. So can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Drake and Councillor Williams seconding. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Just checking, double checking. Any other items that the chair has decided are urgent? Well, I have no, I don't have any. So, and I do apologise again for turning up late. It won't happen again. So thank you all very much, and thank you, Helen and team. And it's very nice to see you all in person. So thank you all for coming.